Your book, Superfast, is not about hustle culture. It's about intelligent pace setting. What is the difference between those two things in your own sort of words? This one.
When I was researching it, I spoke to a couple of engineers, car building and at universities, to talk about the physics of speed, because I thought I really want to understand a bit more about this idea of speed in this world that we know is definitely not going to slow down. And one of them said to me, "Oh, Sophie, don't talk about speed, talk about velocity, much sexier word." And they were absolutely right, because velocity is, very simply put, it's speed in a given direction. So if you are a leader of your business, of your life, you need to be crystal clear on the direction you're going. And then it's not just hustling for the sense of it. It's not rushing around like crazy fools. It's not that terrible badge of being busy, which is really unattractive and really ineffective. It's about moving with purpose and pace, moving fast but in a given direction. And also making sure it's sustainable. So we know that one of the biggest challenges when you are a purpose-driven, passionate entrepreneur is burnout. We know that everybody can be incredibly driven and then drive themselves into the ground. So one of the most powerful things that I learned in the research for Superfast and working with people was understanding that glorious pace-setting perspective. And we know that pace setting is about variable pace. So knowing when to slow down, to recharge, to think, to reconnect, building in the power of the pause at every stage throughout it all. And then what you get is high velocity leadership that is moving fast, that is sustainable, and which brings people along with you as well. So for me, one of the drivers has always been showcasing examples of where business can be a force for good. Now that's for society as a whole, that's for the employees, so building businesses that actually help people flourish and as part of it, but it's also for those people running those businesses, how they can absolutely succeed in a world of speed in a positive, productive, purposeful way.
What would you say to a founder who is moving quickly because they've always been rewarded for moving quickly in their business, but they're struggling for their team to come with them? They can't instill that motivation, that drive for the team to go above and beyond perhaps what they need to do to fulfill their contract, to help the business or to keep up with the founder.
This happens a lot, and it's a key issue. So first of all, we talked earlier about human understanding and understanding yourself. If you are a founder, entrepreneur, or if you're a leader in a business, you are a pace setter. You are somebody who's driven, who will go fast. And you will be employing people who will not have that same sense of pace. So really understanding how to build for differences is critical. And there's an acceptance there. Not everybody wants to work in the way in which you do. Not everyone. So I think there's three things. One is very, very important and really helpful is, I mean, it's still the same in corporates as well. 21st century leadership. We can't scream to go faster like you used to do on fairground rides. You need to structure for speed. So first and most importantly is building the frameworks to allow people to build at speed and helping them get there. So if you think about templates and structures and frameworks, you do the thinking and you can do it fast, you can find a way of doing it to help them work around it and get there quicker. And that's much more supportive and helpful than just going faster, work more, which obviously is not going to help. So the structuring for speed. There is also, at a very base level, being a visionary. So to communicate over and over and over again, understanding that if you're a founder entrepreneur, you'll get things quick, you'll pick them up quick, you'll move quick, you can move on. You'll need to repeat and share with people over and again to make sure everybody understands it. So slowing yourself down to communicate and repeat. Also, in the context of giving them the vision. So giving them the story. Why is this important? And I think it's incredible. When you talk to, one of my favourite things is the Airbnb story, how quickly they went from nothing to incredible success with the most crazy premise. So there's a wonderful woman called Aoife McArdle who helped build it out across Europe. And when I talked to her about it, she shares how her father laughed when he told her, "Well, you can be running this, you've gone from Apple to be working for this business where they're renting out the spare rooms." The craziness of the crazy ideas. But the founders of Airbnb are incredibly visionary. They can tell the story, make it happen. So structure for speed, be patient with other people because they are different, and knowing, and we go back to the point we made at the start about everybody treats work in a different way, and that human understanding that they may not be coming to work with the same goals as you, but building that up so they can support and bring different things. Perhaps they bring the rigor where you bring the vigor. So they're slower, but they'll be more thorough. There's a human understanding there. And then just making sure that the story is there, because if you can make sure the vision is there, you can also build in ways to build up pace. I mean, the whole of Superfast is all about how to deal with that, the impatience of a leader, and understanding how to be patient and how to set up things so that they do go faster without completely burning out.
This is really, really interesting to me. So one of the phrases that you use is leading at speed. So obviously I wouldn't know what that means, but where do most founders go wrong? To really elaborate from your last points, I guess, but I just want to keep going down this rabbit hole. Like, what does it mean to lead at speed?
So there is a concept which is quite literally rocket science, which is probably helpful here. So aeronautical engineers absolutely obsess over something called max Q. And it's when a rocket ship goes up. So we often talk about rocket ships as a metaphor for startups, right? The excitement of it all and seeing it explode and going into unknown areas. Aeronautical engineers will obsess over max Q, and it's the moment at which a rocket ship goes up into space. But it's the moment when the increased pressure and the increased velocity and decreased pressure starts to cause damage to the ship. Yeah. And it's max Q, and that's the point. So if you are a startup founder, understanding at what stage you, as well as the business, is going to reach max Q, and watching it and watching the pace setting piece. So one of the biggest and most helpful ways of looking at that is to understand this idea of variable pace again. So again, going back to you're a pace setter, building it in. When you've had a really intense product launch, what are you going to do to give people pace striping, I call it, that pause afterwards? How are you going to make sure you're building in time to think, to rest and recover? What are you doing to keep everybody really sustaining? There's some thoughtfulness that goes into it. Now, you do have to accept that some organisations are, by their very nature, fast-paced and will require something more. So the excitement you get from being part of a startup comes with some pressure and the need for speed, because that's really one of the main competitive advantages you have as a startup versus the big companies. You can get there faster, you can move faster, you can respond to the opportunity, you can grab the chance to do something with agility. So you cannot lose that speed. But talking to people about how everybody can manage their own pace setting as well can really help. So everybody will do it in different ways, but you as an organisation can also show. But even in the Marketing Society, we're a not-for-profit organisation, but I'm keen that we are not a dusty old slow one, that we do move at pace. But we run 130 plus events every year. Some of them it's very intense, particularly our conference season. We have a golden quarter like retailers, and at the end of our year is really intense. So therefore we deliberately make July and August lighter months to allow people the moments, and we plan across the year and we look at what's happening so that we can see the pressure points to avoid that max Q. So there's a burnout piece, but then there's also actually finding people who do take some joy in the excitement of impact and moving fast. So celebrating, I think, one of the most important things you should ever do, you should definitely do as a leader, especially if you're building something new and exciting, as entrepreneurs do, is celebrate the progress, celebrate the wins, keep focusing in on what's working well as the relentless, even better ifs of what should happen next.
I think this is really interesting. So I read a book. I actually was told, I said I've done with these books. I wanted to read some more philosophical books. And someone said you should read some stuff on like thermodynamics because it works really nicely with entrepreneurship, and it's talked about max Q. So when it starts to get to that point where it all builds up and you need to throttle down before you throttle up again, which is also anecdotally where all the questions are asked. If you ever watch like a SpaceX live launch, they get like 2 or 3 miles up and they're still in blue sky, and then they will throttle down and everyone's going, why is it throttling down? And they're talking about max Q, which I think is really interesting.